Oh, hey, yeah, follow me. Where are we going? Don't worry about it. Anyway, so you guys probably know about, Scotland, Ireland, Wales, those countries. And you notice they're all kind of similar, right? Well, that's because they're all a family, and they got a few other cousins like Cornwall and, Brittany and France and all that stuff. But what is this family? They're called the Celts. Let's talk about them. Here, follow me. Let's go. So in Europe, you have three main ethno-linguistic groups, or more like language family groups. You have the Germanic, Slavic, and Latin. Everybody knows these three, they're the big ones. But then you get the interesting outlier family groups that are a little smaller and get less attention. You have like the Baltic family, Latvian and Lithuanian. You have Uralic, which has Finnish and Estonian. And then you get to the interesting Celtic family. Who are the Celts? Before we get into the Celtic peoples though, I have to remind you guys, I am no longer Barbs, but now you must refer to me as Lord Barbs the First of the Geography Now domain, Lord of Ardmore and Lord of the Glen. That's right, I have dual lordship status. What does that mean? As you guys know, I take sponsorships very seriously, and there is nothing more appropriate for a video about the Celtic peoples than a Celtic sponsorship. And what Celtic company? Celtic and Highland Titles. This is a family-owned company that allows you to buy souvenir plots of land in both Scotland and Northern Ireland so that it makes you a lord or lady. Now, of course, don't confuse this with actually being a part of British nobility or aristocratic high society like in Bridgerton, where you must secure a spouse at the local ball and then when you have to build a castle or something. No. So, man, Penelope was getting it last season. Oh, no, but instead it's even better. Why? Because you will be contributing to the preservation of Scotland and Northern Ireland's natural beauty. Your plot of land will be protected and the people administering it will be able to plant native plants, which in return allows a lot more of the native animal species to come in and repopulate the areas. I just realized this deed says, now this deed witnesseth. I've never even heard of that word, witnesseth. I am witnesseth a lord. And of course you get a few cool little souvenirs like coasters and a keychain and a pen. And the cool thing is they actually have an interactive app that you can download with this QR code. And once you get it, you can actually see your land via otter cams. For all of this, go to highlandtitles.com or celtictitles.com. Choose your plot of land and use the code Geography Now to get 25% off your purchase. Thank you, Celtic and Highland Titles. So who or what are the Celts? Well, they are a very distinct people group known for their colorful traditions and folklore, known throughout all of Europe. But you guys know that I love having you guys involved in my video. So with this, we're going to introduce two of my Celtic peeps. You know him, Potter, from the Ireland episode.
How's it going? I'm Potter. I do graphics for Paul. Everything from titles, motion graphics, to those mad blood videos you might have seen from time to time. I've also appeared in the odd video here and there. You might remember me from the Ireland episode. And today I'm here to talk about the Celtic people.
And introducing Thomas. You may have recognized his quick cameo in the UK episode, Thomas.
Samai.
All right, so with that, let's jump into this. So we don't know the exact origin of the Celtic peoples because we didn't have cameras back then, but what we do know is that it is speculated that they probably originated somewhere in the Hallstatt territory, which is now part of what is considered southern Germany and France and Austria. It's actually named after the town of Hallstatt. Actually, you know what? Let's just cut to a motion graphic.
So this area is known as the Hallstatt territory because they found a bunch of ancient Celtic sites and graves, so they were like, okay, this is like the earliest thing we found, so let's assume this is probably the origin-ish area. And from there, the main Celtic tribes, clans, and groups formed. You have the OG peoples, like the Gauls, that were mostly in France and Germany, but then migrated as far as Turkey. Then you have the Celtiberians, which lived mostly in what is now Spain and Portugal. Then you have the Britons, Picts, and Gaels that evolved into Scottish, Welsh, and Irish peoples, as well as some peoples in parts of England. Basically, Celts were always in conflict with the Romans, and eventually many of the lands that the Celts were in eventually fell to the Roman Empire, and the remaining Celts that weren't either killed off or completely integrated and absorbed into the Roman Empire sort of got pushed into the British Isles and the Brittany province of France.
Actually, that motion graphic was done by our friends at HGP Media. They make some great educational map content on Instagram and YouTube. Check them out. They're great people. Thank you, HGP Media. Side note, for those of you that are Christians, when I said that the Gauls migrated as far as Turkey, those are the Galatians, as in the book of Galatians in the Bible. The Galatians were Celtic peoples. Yes, they were. The Celtic languages today are divided into three groups. You have Continental Celtic, which are basically the groups that were in continental Europe, like Germany and France. They are all pretty much extinct today, and none currently exist. And then you have Insular Celtic, or the British Isles Celtic. And this is further divided into two other groups. Goidelic, which includes today's Irish, Scottish, and Manx. And then you have Brittonic, which includes Cornish, Welsh, and Breton. Side note, yes, I am aware that Breton, or Brittany Celtic, is connected to continental Europe via France. However, it is still insular because it is derived from people that migrated from Cornwall, so it is more related to Cornish than it is to continental Celtic. Now, although there have been thousands of Celtic peoples throughout European history, today there are 6 main Celtic peoples that exist in the Celtic League. That is a pan-Celtic organization that was established in 1961 to foster a Celtic community and operate with cooperation and promote Celtic identity to the world. And they are Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Cornwall, Isle of Man, and Brittany in France. Today, only one of those members is a fully sovereign state, Ireland, and the rest are subdivisions within the larger sovereignty of the UK and France. Scotland and Wales are by definition countries, but they fall under the overarching sovereignty of the UK, and Brittany is a province in France. And the Isle of Man is a crown dependency, which is a whole other weird level of administration. We explained it in the UK episode, but basically they're kind of like their own thing, but it's open. Oh, Mom's here now. You had fun teaching art class?
I did it kind of easy way.
Easy way? Oh, you didn't want to challenge them?
Relaxed way.
Anyway, I'm recording now, so. So within these member states, there are 4 of them that have adopted co-official status of their native languages within their respective regions. They are Irish, Scottish Gaelic, Welsh, and Breton in Brittany. So that means you can find resources that are actually published within these languages in these regions. Sometimes they teach them in schools. You can see TV shows and radio stations that speak these languages. They've adopted co-official status. Oh, actually, Mom, can you record me? Here. In that regard, there is a revival attempt for the Cornish and Manx languages. Manx is the language of the Isle of Man. That's what they call themselves, Manx. They don't call themselves Island of Manners, Manx. And on top of that, there's kind of a complicated thing going on with the northern regions of Spain. You have Asturias, you have Galicia. They all kind of claim Celtic heritage, but all the former Celtic languages that were in those respective regions have pretty much died out, and they only speak Spanish, or they're dialects of Spanish. Nonetheless, they still fiercely claim their Celtic heritage, and they even still perform some ancient Celtic traditions, such as solstice festivals, and they even have bagpipes. Why are you merging? Move, you That being said, some people consider them the cousins of the Celts, but it's complicated, and today they are not members of the Celtic League. But if given the option, they would probably join if they could. So with that, let's just do a quick little overview of all 6 of the Celtic nations. And who better to do this than our Celtic buddies? Take it away, guys.
All of them are famous for castles, whiskey, wool clothing, farming, and ancient Celtic celebrations. Let's start with the largest one, and probably the most well-known one, Ireland. As mentioned, Ireland is the only fully sovereign Celtic nation in the entire world. And if you want more information on that, just watch the Ireland episode and you get to see this devilishly handsome individual in it too. But to summarise, the Irish are the only ones that probably had the largest seafaring and travelling experience out of all the Celts in modern history. Ireland are the most widely spread and diasporic community out of all the Celts and can be found all over the world. The diaspora outnumbers the entire population of Ireland, and it can be hard to get an exact number because over time, many of them have either integrated or mixed in with their new communities. The USA alone has about 5 times more Irish people than the entire population of Ireland, at somewhere over 33 million. And that's just the USA, not even considering the rest of the diaspora in other countries. Today, there are many famous people, inventions, traditions, and cultural traits that Ireland has been known for, that the whole world has been exposed to, that are way too many to list. But a short list of things that are distinctly Irish include things like Bono, Tommy Tiernan, leprechauns, river dance, hurling, Guinness, St. Patrick, Jameson's, soda bread, last names that start with O, the colour green, and Paul has crackheads written here. Yeah, but yeah. Anyways, there you go. That's Ireland. And now on to Scotland. Probably the second most well-known Celtic nation and also the second largest community. Like the Irish, they are also spread widely across the world, and today the diaspora also outnumbers the actual population of Scotland, with somewhere estimated upwards to 40 million across the world. The USA has about 1 million more people of Scottish descent than the entire Scottish population of Scotland. Scots are the only Celtic nation that attempted to create colonies in the Americas during the Age of Exploration. The most notable being in Canada and Panama, which is why the province of Canada is called Nova Scotia, or New Scotland. Long story short, things that are very distinctly Scottish include bagpipes, tartan kilts, which allude to Scottish clans, Shetland ponies, Cayley parties, hogmanay, Loch Ness, haggis, golf, last names that start with Mech, St Andrew, and of course all the whiskies made here are referred to as Scotch, including the most world famous of them, Johnny Walker and Glenlivet.
Wales. Probably the third most well-known Celtic nation, mainly because Hollywood hasn't made us a Braveheart type film with our own Owain Glyndŵr. But Ryan Reynolds is doing pretty well in spreading awareness. Even though we have a smaller population than Ireland and Scotland, we have by far the highest percentage of native speakers of our national language, Cymraeg. Today, over 500,000 people speak it. Most of the population can at least understand some Welsh to varying degrees. The very word Wales derives from an Anglo-Saxon one, which can mean in some contexts as foreigner or not us, yet the Welsh are basically the original Britons. Cymru is the Welsh word for Wales, meaning fellow man. The language has a lot of th and long words that you're not going to be able to pronounce. The Welsh have also spread around the world, mostly in former British colonies like the US, Canada, Australia, places like Donetsk in Ukraine, which was built by Welsh steel workers and miners. And Argentina has the famous Ladva, Gymraeg Welsh colony. Wales is famous for things like Welsh cakes, daffodils, leek, rugby, Merlin and the Red Dragon, Love Spoon's song, poetry, Mary Lloyd, Laura Ashley, Tom Jones, Gareth Bale, the Eisteddfod and St David's Day. And we also invented the microphone, the symbol for pie and mail order shopping. Yaki da! Cornwall, or Cernow. Although its people are acknowledged as a national minority of the UK, Cornwall does not yet have the legal status of a country like Scotland or Wales. Although true Cornish people refuse to accept Cornwall as an English county. You will see this flag, St Piran's flag, everywhere here as a symbol of their Cornish identity. Cornwall was once called by the Anglo-Saxons as West Wales to distinguish it from North Wales, which is modern day Wales. Hundreds of Cornish place names begin with Trey, Poll and Pen, and there has been lots of anglicisation. The Cornish language known as Cernuec had fallen out of use in the 1800s, but people had recorded much of it in documents, effectively saving the language. Today there's a big Cornish language revival, and people across Cornwall are learning it, and many schools are even teaching it. And historic 14th century mystery plays have now been reenacted after being almost forgotten and nearly lost. Cernow is famous for Cornish wrestling, tin and copper miners, traditional events like St Piran's National Day, Padstow, Obi Os and the Helston Flora Day, Cornish cider, pasties, saffron buns and clotted cream. Legends and myths include piskies, giants and beasts, as well as the legendary origins of King Arthur, Cornish wreckers and Poldark.
And now on to the Isle of Man. This is a self-governing crown dependency of the UK. Although it was reverted to the British Crown, it never fully joined the UK, so it falls under a weird autonomous status, where the UK doesn't really have any direct control over it, but they're still in charge of their defence, foreign policy, and representing them in most international organisations and events. Important note here, the people are called Manx and there's less than 100,000 of them worldwide. This is a very unique island because although it's small, it has a long history of human habitation that dates back to as far as 6500 BC. Over time they were taken over by the Norse, the Scottish, the English, but they still retained their Manx identity. The Manx language almost went extinct as Ned Mandrell, the last speaker, died in 1974. However, like the Cornish and Breton languages, the people started revival programs, and today the language is starting to make a comeback, especially with its studies being introduced in schools and the opening of the Bunskull Gaelgach, the only primary school in the world where all lessons are taught in Manx, as a government-run effort to assist fluency in the language. And today, the island is mostly known for being a tax haven and a gambling hub. And they also have a cool motorcycle race and a native cat that has no tail. And there you go, that's the Isle of Man.
Brittany. or Breton Celts, the only one of the 6 Celtic nations not part of the British Isles. This is a people group found on the Brittany province of France, just south of the Isles. You will see this flag here, which is not only a provincial flag of France, but it's the flag of the Breton people, who are most closely related to the Cornish people. Psst, by the way, all 3 of us have an anthem that goes to the same tune. Breton Celts are of course more Francized? Frenched up, as they are attached to France, and of course most people here speak French, and the Breton language only natively spoken by say 5% of the population. However, children can learn the language at Breton medium education schools, or via bilingual education in both state and private schools. There are some 13,000 children in Brittany today who are in schools where there is bilingual French and Breton classes. This area is famous for things like their rocky coastlines, their megalithic structures of Carnac, their Celtic festival, the walled city of St. Malo, and most notably, their cuisine. Buckwheat crepes, shellfish and mussels, brown butter pie. Breton cuisine, it's good.
So there you go, Celtic peoples briefly explained. Thank you so much, Potts and Thomas, for being in this video. Really appreciate it. What ethno-linguistic people groups would you like me to kind of cover next? There's so many of them, and they're all so unique and interesting. Let me know, and maybe I'll do a video on it. Who knows? Cheers. Stay cool. Stay tuned.